This week on Induction Noise. I show my expertise in car noises.
The car going.
Neil attends an interesting party.
It's really nice to see a bunch of younger guys here.
And I think Andre joins him.
I was super nervous to go up there my first time.
Like, comment, subscribe. Please don't cancel us. Well, good evening, gentlemen, and welcome back to my office. Welcome to the Induction Noise podcast. This is season 3, episode 400 and whatever it is. I don't even know where we are anymore. With me, as always, is Niku.
How's it?
Andre.
Hey there.
And Neil.
Evening.
So, guys, straight off the bat, we have been inundated with an email, which hasn't happened in a while. Well, it probably has. We just don't check our emails that often. we haven't used Fixer or whatever the damn thing is that keeps being pushed on me.
Being out of office.
we are being out of office. So I'm going to read this to you, and then I guess we'll discuss the contents of this. It says, "Hi, Induction Noise. I am looking for a classic car to cruise around in on weekends. I would love a drop top, but it's not essential. What is essential is 4 seats, even if they are small, dinky ones in the back. JDMs are hot right now, but I love the history of the European brands, so I'm not really sure which way I'm leaning." I notice he didn't even mention Americans, because quite frankly, they're not worth mentioning. I'm pretty handy with a spanner, but I don't want to spend every weekend under the bonnet either. I have about 300 to 400k to spend, but I don't want to lose money on whatever I buy. As for my driving style, I'm not really a racer. I want a cruiser. I want something to take to my favorite restaurants or a tour of the winelands and enjoy the scenery. What should I look at? Right, guys, well, technically this episode is not sponsored. So we're using the ad spot for a very important bit of news. First of all, I want to ask everyone to please like, comment, and subscribe. The more you comment and talk to us on the various platforms, the better we rank in their algorithms and the more eyes we get on our content, and the more we are inclined to do more fun stuff that you guys enjoy. So please interact with us. It's a lot of fun. It helps us a lot. Also, you'll hear us possibly mention it in this episode, but we've got a big announcement coming in the next episode. So make sure you don't miss that one. And the easiest way to do that is to subscribe. 93% of our listeners on YouTube are not subscribed to the channel. So shame on you. You know who you are. Anyway, back to our email.
I'm trying to think price-wise, 300k, what you can buy classic 300k with these days. You know, especially if you're talking classics, not modern classics.
I'm aiming modern classic.
Did he say classic, or?
He said classic, but I suppose, you know, he's not...
Are we gonna kind of infer what that classic means in this context?
I would assume if he's part of our demographic, our listening group, that he's kind of in our sort of age group. So
Good looking.
That's
I would
wide.
say 70s, 80s, possibly even 90s, depending on what you feel would be a good cruiser for him.
I'm hitting a bit of a blank on the specific model, but 1970s, mid-70s, Mercedes made a nice convertible, which I don't think is too expensive. I know I've driven one of them, and
The SL.
it's I can't remember if it's before it was the SL, if it was just like a 450 whatever, or was it a 450 SL?
They had the SLs back
Yeah,
then.
the SL.
The 70s, they had the SLs, and it would have been the R109, I think.
Yes. And I mean, it's if the 450 had a thumping of an engine that was bulletproof. It wasn't fast.
It had about 100 horsepower, but it was...
It was a
but he
great
said
big gas
he
guzzling
likes to
V8.
cruise, so
It is a cruising engine, I
it's a
suppose.
solid ass car. It's got rear seats that you can kind of fit someone in them. It's a good looking car. To non-car people, it might even look like a pagoda, you know? But I mean,
And to your mother, it'll look like the car that Bobby Ewing used to drive in Dallas.
That's the one, yeah.
There we go. And I drove one of them back in, I think, 2017 or 2018 when I took my sister and matric dance or one of the school dances for their matric farewell or something. I can't remember. And I just thought, this is such a lovely car. It's not fast, but it
cool.
sounds nice.
Like
It's
a boat, it wafts
It's
along.
almost like a good watch. You know, you can...
You'll have to explain.
So I'm speaking to the watch connoisseur here. If you listen to a proper watch's mechanics, you know, you can hear the... It's a very nice sound, right?
That's normally the cam chain on those Mercs. You need
Wow.
to check that out.
Yeah.
Cam chain, lifters, whatever the hell it might be. It's just like a clock that just continues driving. It's got a lovely noise. You can cruise in it, and it's a good-looking car, man. And you
Got a
can't go.
metronomic presence to it.
Yeah, and I mean, with the way any classic Mercedes is going currently, you're really not going to lose money.
The other nice thing about those cars is part support seems to be pretty decent on them. You can get most bits for them.
It's not cheap, but
they're
you can
not.
get 'em.
They're not cheap, but you can get them. But it is a little bit lacking in character, I feel. I mean, I drove the 450 SLC, which is the hardtop coupe version of it. And
Safari version of that looks hot.
yeah, Safari version would look hot. I think actually Jeremy Clarkson once built an off-roader based on that.
They had
car.
one of those in the
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did, but the body like fall off the
It
chassis.
fell off the chassis.
They had
Yeah.
one of those in the car, and way back in the day, they had one of those.
But
I wouldn't say it lacks character though. I think like
a
it's
little bit. The
In what
driving,
sense?
the
The
driving
driving
experience is a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
once
this guy
again,
doesn't
you
care
want a
about that.
cruiser.
Yeah.
But you can have a cruiser that still has
That cruises
character
characterfully.
and
so he
kinda
does
puts a smile
he does
on
with
your
your option then.
Yes.
He does with your option in that case. Yeah.
The smart one.
Yeah. Oh,
I was hoping you guys would come up with something good.
what
and
is
then
next?
I
You're going to
could
try and
catch
sell us like a
inspiration.
V6 SLK basically is what you're going to try and sell us now. Is that
I wouldn't say that classifies as classic just yet. It's
It can. They made
a
them in
nice
like
car.
mid-90s. They started making them. They're crap, but they started making them in the mid-90s.
they're not crap.
They are crap.
You know, I actually before we had this, I hadn't actually driven a first-gen SLK before. And I was expecting it to be terrible because that's what all the reviews said. They were terrible. And it's not. I mean, it's not a race car by any stretch of the imagination. It's not the stiffest car you've ever driven in your life, you know, in terms of torsional rigidity.
So what do you like about it?
It's just a nice cruiser. It really is.
But it's not very characterful, is it?
Yeah,
It has got character. You heard it. It sounds really good. It puts a smile on your face.
do you
But it
while
doesn't have 4 seats, so it wouldn't work.
while you're stalling of actually answering the questions, do you want me to answer the question in the meantime, and then you can think a little
You go
bit?
for it. I mean,
please, man.
you've clearly given this great thought. So
No, I haven't. But I'm a little bit on a, you know, I've always maintained, you know, Quentin is a bit of like the Timu version of JM, right? You know, like I realized like how honest. So I recently.
Is it the shirt? Is it
No,
the shirt
joke-
or the book? that
No,
does it?
jokes aside, because I know you guys have met, you know, and it's actually because
I haven't actually met JM.
Yeah, well, you're not. But you guys were in
But
some discussion.
I know him. Well, I know. Yeah. Long story.
A long
Anyway.
story. But so he recently had a video about like it was more of a modern car, but on the E46 330 Ci. And he was talking about how that's actually in that range, actually the better car that you should be buying because it's heavier but much more solid. So I would, but if that's maybe classifies as a bit too modern, you know what I've got a soft spot for? You know, I mean, you guys know the naming of it a lot better, but your sort of mid-1990s, there was the CLK, when the first generation CLK came out.
Oh, yeah.
They came
convertible.
out. I would go for the coupe. I would recommend the coupe. I think they look
CLK
really...
55 AMG.
Was there a 55?
Yes.
I would have thought, you know, even if you just buy like a 320 or you got a 430, a 430 CLK 430, which is like a V8. I don't know anything about the engines.
That's like the older generation of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mid-1990s version. Either that or, you know what?
You can't kill those things.
Find a E46 M3 convertible. I'm sure for 400 you can still find an E46 M3 convertible.
M3 convertible.
The other thing
You guys must remember the touring aspect here.
If you,
Four doors.
If you want to
No,
go
4 seats.
If you want to go M3, you're gonna struggle, I think, because for 300 to 400,000, you're gonna be looking at a fairly ropey example. The nice ones, the guys are listing for stupid prices.
Yeah,
I don't know what
stupid
they're
one.
actually selling for, but they're listing them for
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
astronomical.
But here's a question. You could
I actually think you'd be better off with the E46 330 Ci.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would
I mean,
prefer
that would be
Yeah.
a really nice car.
Yeah, and then you find, I mean, you have to like scratch between, like, because there's a lot of ropey ones. But I've thought a couple of times, like, geez, you know, I mean, and that you're not even looking 300-400. You can literally buy for under 200.
Yeah.
You can buy like a clean one.
So you're talking about the CLK and stuff now?
Yeah. So
The problem with that generation of Merc, right? The late 90s, early 2000s Mercs, anything before 2004, 2003, the build quality was atrocious. And I mean...
The interiors were a bit Timu.
So we owned one, and the car fell apart. I have no other way to explain it than the car fell apart. The build quality was, I had an Alpha 156 at the time. Similar year model.
You had an Alpha.
No, same year model. Right? So I had this, you know, Italian cars fall apart, they're unreliable, blah, blah, blah. But compared to that Merc, the interior was made from granite, and it was like the best marble and materials you can find. The bits of the interior just came apart. The door handles fell off.
But wasn't that also the era of Mercedes where they specifically built the wiring harnesses
That's a bit earlier.
to be biodegradable?
That's a bit
Which
earlier.
I would have loved to be in that meeting.
yeah, that's interesting.
Hi Fritz, I have got this great idea. The wiring in the car, why don't we make it biodegradable?
Yeah, as soon as you get any water ingress in it, then it just starts degrading, basically.
Planned obsolescence, man. That's the...
No. So, Andre, what kind of Alpha would you suggest he buys?
The issue with a classic car is the cars that you're calling classic right now, or that you guys mentioned now, is kind of more modern classic.
Yeah,
and classic cars was more two-seater convertibles, you know, like your Triumph Spitfires, your Spiders, etc. Right?
But remember, the brief was specifically one with 4 seats, right?
It has to have
the
4
guy
seats.
wants a
Yes,
car with
exactly.
4 seats. Yeah.
But that's what makes classic difficult. But anyways, so
So I would go for a Alpha Giulia,
Obviously.
if you can find one for that price. And I'm not talking about a brand new Giulia. They're about the same price.
You probably could find
You
a
could.
nice enough Julia for 300.
you're gonna buy like 5 of them. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
No.
They're
No,
not.
like if you want a
You
nice
can
one.
find a nice one. It's not going to be the best example, but it's going to be a nice
Are
one.
you talking like 60s, Julia?
Yes, 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
Because
a Giulia is a 4-door sports car that you can take your family to a restaurant with. You can take your mistress,
well, you can take
wife,
them
what
halfway
have you.
there and then
Well,
fix it
you
and
know.
get the rest of the way, I suppose.
But it's never going to be boring, is it? You know, it's never going to be boring. But it's a car that handles well. You can cruise with it if you want to, whatever.
The boxy one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one my grandpa had one like that.
Exactly. Your
Yeah.
grandpa's a cool dude, man.
Those are nice
fun.
cars, actually.
Nice
they're,
cars, yeah.
they're very pretty things. For a boxy car, it's actually a very pretty little thing.
And very streamlined as well.
And it has character.
It has spades full of character.
And those I don't know what Alpha did that's different to everyone else, but those Alpha 4-cylinder motors,
The Nord.
they they sound better than other four-bangers. Especially if the carbs are nice and open and they can breathe. It's
Induction noise, man.
It's a good noise.
Induction noise.
So I think that's a kind of a bit of a way out example.
I don't think it's that way out. I think
but
it's actually quite a cool idea.
For a drop top, something very weird and very different.
You can buy a cheap Julia and cut its roof off.
But I will find you and I will kill you.
And now, are you going to Saab now?
No.
Okay.
Close though.
Okay.
Volvo C70.
Jeez.
Yo.
The Saint, man.
There's
You guys
gotta-
remember the Saint?
Yeah, but he had a P1800. Oh, the movie.
Val Kilmer, the Saint.
But was the C70, did they make one a convertible or the coupe?
Yeah, no, they
I think they did
both.
both.
They did
I
a
think you
they
did
did a
both.
coupe and they did the
Coupe looks
C70
nice.
convertible.
I don't think I've ever seen
It was
one,
actually a folding
actually.
hardtop convertible.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
No,
The older one.
there's maybe like 2 in the country.
So it's very way out, and it's probably not the most involving driving experience or the styling isn't that amazing or whatever, but
I think it's cool.
It's a
but
really nice
it's-
cruiser,
it's-
and it's going to
it's-
have a 5-cylinder motor if you look for a right
but
one.
so the engine's characterful, right? And it's a cool thing. It's just like a whole, the Saint.
I would actually think, remember the 9.5? The Saab 9.5 also had like it was probably not as cool.
The Seinfeld one,
Yeah.
the one, the 2-door.
Seinfeld Saab.
Yeah, there's one where they also made a convertible. They were very floppy. apparently.
Very wobbly.
You get the Aero one with all the Griffin wings
Yes.
and the rocket launches and
Basically, with those, if you go over a speed bump, then the passenger has to steer for a few seconds because the steering wheel is just like all the way over there now.
okay.
So your suggestions have actually inspired me. I think I have an idea of what this guy should go for. And I've kind of narrowed it down to 2 options. One is a car that I absolutely love and adore, and I desperately want one in my future at some point or another. But they're hard to find in really nice condition. It's not a Jag.
I was wondering what Jag is he going to steal? Suggest.
I was going to suggest an E39 540.
Okay.
It's not that old, but most of us, I think, will agree that was the classic 5 Series.
But yes.
And the 540 is the nicest cruiser because it's not a race car. It's really soft in the suspension.
But
it's got 4 seats. It's got character. It's got a V8.
But I want to disagree with myself now because, like the Giulia, they are very capable handling cars. They're built for driving dynamics, right? So it's almost a waste buying a car that is, and just using it for cruising.
But
it's like having a race.
I think you can. I would buy that as a daily. I would daily something like that.
You could daily it, but to get a really nice low mileage one, if you can find one, I think because it is, as Andre says, it's set up to be a dynamic driving experience. It talks to you as you drive, and that for me is fun at any speed.
But it's for you. But remember, our email writer.
Yeah, but he's a cruiser, right?
Yes.
So.
But for a cruiser, would a 4-door sedan really give you the kind of fizz for cruising that you would get with a drop top kind of
Okay,
thing?
but the other question is, what is your second option then? If
So
that's
the
kind of
second
like
option is along a similar sort of Germanic vein, but I just happened to see one the other day and I thought, geez, that's cheap for what you get, because a lot of them are manuals, so they're nice cars to actually drive. They're not particularly good in the dynamic department because they suffer from catastrophic understeer.
Okay.
But do you guys remember the old shape Audi S4?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Those things are actually quite cool.
Oh, you talk about the V8.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the
that
first
old,
V8
I mean,
S4.
that's like an 80 grand car, right? That's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
a
it's
one-
like the bubbly, like
If you
there was a
if you
coupe
find
or a
super clean,
convertible.
there is a convertible version of it. But if you find a super clean one with low mileage, you're going to pay.
I think they're quite
300K.
cool because they were all. Was it 6-cylinder ones? The majority of them with V6s. I think
No,
three.
no,
no.
Three,
The
is that
newer
the,
ones
oh, is that the new?
V6s.
You even talking the older one looks like a brick basically.
Yeah, well,
No,
not
not a
really.
brick.
It's
Is it the
kind of-
1990s?
It's
It's
kind
early
of
2000s. The S4 was
kind
early
of
2000s.
late 90s,
It was
early
early 2000s, 2003
kind
roughly.
kind of first gen TT generation.
Because but that is like it's a bit rounded already, like a rounded
a
shape.
little bit rounder shape.
They're quite not. I mean, you don't see a lot of them in the round anymore, but they used to be. It's like the precursor to the A5 convertible, basically.
Kind
It's
of,
like
yeah.
But I wouldn't go convertible. I would then get an S4
I
manual.
would get the S4 manual sedan.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the best version of it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
But
bang for buck.
Awesome
but
rims.
not
The
for-
rims on them are. I mean, they
Yes.
came out with I think one of the best looking rims.
But not for three. That is not the car that I would buy for 300,000 rand.
the
You can buy it
issue-
for 100K and
Yeah,
take 200
but you
rand.
see,
Yeah,
that's,
but
that's
it's
that's-
finding a nice one. That's going to
Yeah.
be your problem.
And that's where the issue with both your cars comes in.
Yeah, yeah. You're going to have to look
Both
for them.
those cars were super cheap because I don't know if they were just ahead of their time or they just didn't keep any value.
They are
And-
depreciating heroes.
Exactly, and
But
they
now to find a clean one, you have
because
to
that's
spend the money.
thing. Some young gun that was like, okay, this is going to be my first car.
Someone listened to our baller on a budget episode.
Exactly.
So it was-
So he bought it. He ran it on milk juice and chicken eggs.
Pretty much.
And essentially, you're buying a bomb that's already been blown up, and you need to kind of put it back together. So,
So you're saying it was originally
it's
bought
difficult.
by Charles from accounts, and it was then subsequently owned by Chad from the corner vape shop with his flat cap.
I mean,
But you know,
I've
that
got
kind of thing, I love those kind of cars. Cars that are actually, generally speaking, cars that are kind of under the radar. No one thinks of them. No one really rates them particularly highly. They're not highly sought after things.
Everybody thinks about an RS4,
But-
nobody thinks about an S4.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you turn up to a car meet with something that is low mileage, really clean, of a type of car that, historically speaking, perhaps
Yeah.
has been ragged by the young gun or whatever, people notice it.
And
You know?
by people, you mean anoraks like us.
Yeah.
I mean, any car these days. I mean, I started looking recently. I mean, I think it's a discussion point for some stage because I believe that from the mid 2010s onwards, there isn't going to be normal everyday cars that are going to be collectible or that people are going to want to pay extra money for. Because
No, I don't
I
think so.
found the other day, randomly, I was looking now and then. I mean, of course, you inevitably look at cars from your childhood. And I sometimes look at cars my dad had. So I'll go look at a Jetta or a Passat or whatever. Try and find one of those in clean condition.
Yeah, they
People
don't
want
exist.
stupid. I found a 1600 Mark IV Jetta, right, with 70,000 Ks on the clock. They wanted close to 150,000 Rand for them. That's more than what they were brand new.
But I
Far
mean, to
more than
give
what
you
they were
another
brand
stupid
new.
example, I had that 1982 Ford Granada, right? It was a super clean car. It had a genuine 100,000 Ks on the clock when I bought it. And I think I sold it after fixing a couple of bits and pieces on it. I sold it for 35. That car is currently for sale, and they're wanting 150 for it.
Jeez.
Look, so the
Yeah,
thing is, what you're
crazy.
saying is, you know, getting a Passat with 70,000 Ks, they don't exist, right?
Yeah.
So if you have one like that, you
Yeah.
can ask for it whatever you want. So it's one
That's
of those.
what makes
the
it a
thing is,
classic.
there's not really a market for cars like that. It is
Yeah.
it's a 100%
It's every day.
emotional purchase. Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you're saying, you know what, this car's actually worth 30K if it's got normal mileage on and it just
Yeah, yeah.
basically works and it goes through roadworthy, but this thing is absolutely mint and it like reminds me of my childhood, and I'll pay 150K for it because it's not that much money.
Yeah.
And I'll love it and I'll enjoy it and I'll drive it every
Yeah.
day. But it's kind of weird because it's those outliers.
You know what car I found the other day? Like, sorry, that's someone's a topic. is like, I found, you know, again, the Passat, they brought out I know it's not very much interesting, but I found a V6 4Motion.
Ooh,
That's very rare.
With 80,000 Ks on it. No, it's a little bit more than that. But I think it was sub 100, 120,000 Ks on it.
That could make
And
a
it-
cool lemon.
I mean, they wanted quite a bit of money for it, but I mean, and they're not as fast. They're about as fast as a 1.8 turbo was back then. But
Yeah.
they brought out this four-wheel drive version. There were a handful of them that came to South Africa, and I thought to myself, geez, like if you wanted something nice to drive daily, you see, there's a lot of choices.
Yeah.
I think that just in general, there's so much other boring stuff, and there's so much for 300,000 to 400,000 rand. You're spoiled for choice, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
If you want something
There's
that's
a
cool,
lot of stuff that you can do.
have
Especially in
to.
the current market.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can I throw in a random car, just not for the email, just out of Neil's curiosity for VWs? I saw on We Buy Cars this week a car that I thought, ooh, that is, I know
Yeah, I'm
you've
just going
always
to mute
been
your
looking
mic.
at
We're not
like
going to
a-
advertise We Buy Cars.
You've always looked at like interesting, cheap daily runabouts, and I found a 86 GTI for sale at We Buy Cars for like
Wow.
the
30K.
jumbo.
The jumbo Golf GTI.
I think I've seen it.
For like 30K.
I've seen it.
From the outside, it didn't look bad. And then
It's
I looked at the...
probably ragged.
Yeah, I looked at the Decra report and it was like an entire Bible of stuff.
Yeah,
that's
it needs to
wrong.
be
But
done.
it actually looked like such a cool car. And I thought like, if you really had the time and you really wanted to, that could also be an interesting, just fun, once again, daily.
Yeah.
And then do a few track days with it.
Yeah.
From the days, they also steal it, bro.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
but I mean-
speaking of that, I was at our interior trimmers shop the other day, and he was busy doing carpets on someone's project car, which was a Mark II GTI Jumbo. But the bodywork was mint. I mean, it was really in good condition. The interior was completely stripped, obviously, because he's doing the carpets and stuff. But the interesting thing about the car is that it's someone's project car, and they have literally built all the mechanicals from a Mark IV R32 into this thing.
Oh wow. Okay.
And it's quite cool that they've done it, and I assume that they have reasons for doing it. But at the end of the day, I can't help but feel you're going to spend an absolute fortune building this thing, and at the end of the day, what you end up with is a Golf that's a little bit slower than
But it's
anything else you could have bought for that money.
But it's for Campfest, bro.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. And that's kind of the natural progression as well of a VW driver and BMW drivers, funny enough. They spend so much time trying to beat Porsches, and then eventually they just sell everything and buy a Porsche.
They buy a Porsche. Yeah, that's like a lot of that's the thing. Like a lot of like air cooled. A lot of VW guys end up being buying
The
Porsche,
VW
like,
guys are the old Opel guys. They used to spend fortunes trying to make their Opels as fast as a BMW, and then
They
they'll just
bought a
go and buy a
BMW.
BMW.
Yeah.
At some point you upgrade.
Yeah.
Unless you drive an Alpha. I mean,
Then just stick with Alpha. No need to upgrade.
So, Mr. Anonymous,
I don't have the energy for that tonight. I'll give that one for you tonight.
I get one free pass.
so Mr. Anonymous needs to buy either an old 70s SL, a E46 330 Ci, an Alfa Giulia, or
Actually, a Volvo C70.
a Volvo C70, or an E39.
That's some cool options.
Yeah.
There's some cool options in there. I think
pretty cool.
you'll find a nice car there. I hope you enjoy whatever it is you purchase in the end.
Responsibly. Yeah.
Enjoy responsibly. Keep the shiny side like facing upwards and all of that. So, gents, our actual topic for this evening is basically a roundup of our racing endeavors. Have we even discussed what happened at Lemons on the podcast?
No, not really.
So we're going to briefly
don't
touch on
want
it
to.
because it's a bit of a sore
Got some
subject.
PTSD from that. But
We are suffering some mild bombskok. But essentially what happened was that we took our super reliable Ford Figo that was trusty and brilliant for the first Lemons that we did. And
we got cocky.
we got cocky.
We got cocky.
And we're sitting back, relaxing in the pits, as we do, when suddenly it comes in and like smoke pouring out of it.
We didn't just sit in the pits. We were also tuning other people about.
We were also
I see
tuning
your
other
car is
people.
out.
Your car's broken. So
We're just adding petrol.
we didn't break it at first. It just came in for a quick pit stop.
By we talk about probably you and Andre did that, right?
No. Look, Andre was out on the track at this point. So he brings it in for a pit stop. It was a longer pit stop than we originally planned. I mean, normally we'd do a splash dash, driver change, and
I have been moaning on the radio every single lap for the past 20 laps that the car is running hot.
And then your brother says, don't worry, it's fine. The gauge is broken.
So this guy, so I give him an update on the radio. So our crew chief, I give him an update on the radio. I'm like, so now because I'm driving, I'm racing against cars that are much faster and trying to do my thing and watching the gauge and everything. And then I press a little button and then I talk and I can hear the thing goes on and I talk and I'm, listen here, the car is running at so many degrees, 99 degrees. You know, car is hot. What should I do? Nothing.
To be fair,
And I go on. And
on
then,
the
and then
other
2
end of
laps
the radio,
later, you know,
on the other end of the radio, what I actually got was with the background noise of the car going.
Yeah. So that happened for about 20 laps. So every third lap, he then opens the channel and like, hey Andre, how's the race going? Is the car running cool? I'm like, no,
And then I get, you're basically like, you feel like what Charles and Lewis feels like having a Ferrari race in India,
exactly.
basically.
I
you know,
felt
and
like
it's-
Lewis Hamilton at Monaco
So anyway,
talking to the.
Eventually, Le Figo comes into pit lane, a little bit of smoke coming out of it. And we did a 4.5 hour pit stop, which was not ideal.
Entire motor apart.
It's not planned.
Yeah, we did have to pull the head off the engine. We blew the head gasket.
We did
basically.
skim it with some sandpaper. In the
Sandpaper,
car.
I believe it was 80 grit. So we did skim the head with 80 grit sandpaper and did a field repair on the head gasket and sent it back out. And to be fair, for about an hour, it looked like it was okay. And then Niku came in.
Well, Nico did faster laps with the car in that state than our fastest lap last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it wasn't easy. It was quite. It was like, okay, I'm coming into the pits to see if it's actually nice, you know, if it's actually fine or is the gauge wrong. And eventually the consensus was there's oil in the car, there's water in the car, ignore the gauge. And I was like, well, okay.
Well, we didn't have anything more to do. I mean, that was
right.
it, basically.
And I was anything under 4.5, 5 grand, the car dies. Not. It goes into limp mode. It fully cuts out.
So basically like old Formula 1 car.
Yes.
It just needs to be on the cam, man.
So going into turn 1 at Kalani, instead of heel toeing, I'm braking and mashing the throttle with my heel. And
Left foot brake.
no, I was like you would heel toe, but I was just not blipping the throttle.
You were just healing, not
I was just
You're more healing than towing.
Yes. So it was braking and healing. So the rev stays about 5 grand, and just trying to keep momentum. And when I came around for what was probably the hour mark, the car just went completely dead. Like I ran into a wall, and it started up again, made some funny noises, and I thought, that's probably all she wrote. And essentially what we learned is the radiator and the engine kind of had a feud going on. And eventually the radiator
here's the thing.
waterboarded the engine so much
But here's
the
the
engine
thing.
waterlocked.
It comes into the pits.
on land, basically. That's
Yes,
what you
it
guys
comes
did,
into
you
the
know.
pits, and we think to ourselves, okay, it looks like the head gasket's gone again. Perhaps our repair didn't hold. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the car to sit and cool down, and then in the last 5 minutes of the race, we'll just fire it up so that we can do one lap, even if we're just coasting around, do one lap just so that we can finish.
Then we get classified as a finisher.
Then
they
we get
count
classified as a finisher, even if we only did, I think we did 40-something laps in the end.
No, we did more than that. We did like
more than that.
70-something
Yeah.
laps.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
76 laps, if I remember correctly.
But anyway, that was the plan. And then about 10 minutes before the end of the race, or when was it? No, it was a bit longer than that before the race. But anyway,
No, we did about 10 minutes, 15, 10 minutes.
we then decide, okay, let's see if we can get this thing started.
Let's do this.
And Andre's brother Marcel, who owns the car, gets in, tries to crank it, and it just goes. It doesn't want to turn over. It's seized. So I suggest, okay, let's put it in gear and rock it. See if we can push it a little bit.
Unseize it.
Let's just get it unstuck and see if we can just get it to turn over. So we push it a little bit. He drops the clutch. It turns over, and we're like, okay, it's not seized anymore. He goes. It's turning, but it's really struggling, and it seizes up again. So we push it again and wiggle it, and it comes loose, and he tries it again. And then as it starts cranking, it basically pisses a stream of water as thick as the exhaust out the back.
It looked like a fire hydrant.
It looked like a hose pipe.
Yeah.
That came out of the exhaust. It was just.
No, it was, and then, as I say, it's the first time I'd ever seen a car hydro-locked on dry land.
You guys couldn't just leave the poor car to die in dignity.
No,
Like,
look,
you had to,
what
try and resuscitate
It drowned on dry land.
Jeez.
What is crazy is I truly think, even though the car was essentially dead at this point, I think it had probably another like half an hour of running sick, as long as it didn't stop, because there was some mixture of gasket magic after the pit stop we've done to get all the leaks that was in the car after doing the head sorted. That I kind of think if it didn't like cool down and the block didn't shrink and all the cracks could have like...
I just kept on driving,
I
maybe.
think it just for some reason would have kept on driving and just eventually spectacularly
Never
either
stopped.
flew a rod out or just stopped and died. I don't know.
But I don't know if your brother's torn that engine apart and actually
Yes, he
seen
has.
What has actually
4
happened.
pistons is cracked.
So there were
So
water
the
in
purpose-
all four.
Yes.
Yeah, there were water in all 3 chambers.
Yeah,
all 4
and all
chambers.
But where did the water come from?
Everywhere.
Was it the head gasket? Was
Through
it
the walls of the
I don't know,
freaking...
yeah, I think it...
Because I suspected when I
It's like
saw
a
how much
sieve, that
water's
thing.
in there, I suspected that the block was cracked or
Yes.
the
Yeah, but it was-
the water jacket was basically just
all 4
pouring water into
sleeves
the
was
cylinder.
cracked.
Sleeves were cracked.
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So it's
Yeah.
it's what we call in the industry proper fucked.
Yeah,
Proper
it's
fuck.
football.
It is a boat anchor, but fear not. We have a plan for next year.
And the Figo is also
and the
going to
Figo
get a new lease on life with
is-
a new heart at some point.
having a heart transplant,
But
and it is coming back.
we have to say that the event is still absolutely fantastic.
It's such a joy.
And we're very glad that our good friend Stephen and Sean the McCarthys and Kyle actually won the Lemons.
Yeah, they did really well. I mean,
with
they
their immaculate
struggled
NASCAR,
last year.
with their Hyundai NASCAR.
Kieran's team struggled last year, the Warmwiller.
Warmwiller
But
knocked
this
it
year
out of the park.
they killed it.
They killed it. They started with 3 wheels.
Yeah, they did do that. And they still did. I mean, the wheel came off, and he was still doing 160 something on the back straight.
Tinus was
That's
doing
commitment.
165 on the back straight because he didn't know that he only had 3 wheels.
And he drove and went and picked up his own wheel.
Yeah. It was
Next to the road.
absolutely brilliant. And
next
all of
level.
that, and they still managed to help the folks next to them and fix their car and everything.
Yeah.
So they're just a complete Lemons team.
I am, though, a bit upset.
About?
It's the second Lemons that Neil has missed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, I'm not that sad. I mean, last year, I definitely
Yeah.
had like swine flu.
Not as much
but for
FOMO
some
this
reason,
time.
for some reason, I didn't have this much FOMO this time. I had a lot of FOMO beforehand, but when I heard that you guys have been in the pits for 5 hours in the blazing sun, I thought to myself, actually, it's quite nice here next to the river where I am now.
I do have to admit that the next day I did have mild heat stroke. My mother-in-law is a trauma sister, and she diagnosed me with mild
flu.
heat stroke.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't brilliant, but it was worth it. I mean,
so basically you tanned and you felt bad.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
but,
hard
I
being
mean,
a pit girl, eh? You must get respect for these, like.
Okay.
I gotta get my tits out. It's horrible, but anyway. But Lemons wasn't the only racing we did.
Yeah, talking about overheating, you know, we
Do we have a hot topic for you?
So
we're so late after all these events. I mean, these things are still hot topics because, I mean, That's,
Yeah,
we're still trying for everything to cool off.
So we did this year go to Knysna to compete for the first time.
Yeah, no.
well,
Neil has
we-
competed.
Some of
As,
us
as
went
induction
there to
noise.
Yes.
As induction.
The
noise.
Induction Noise team went for the first time.
Yeah. So it was a very different experience, I must admit. And I think Neil and I, because we weren't driving, at one stage we were actually quite relieved with some of the drama, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a moment, that befell our team, because at the end of the day, it gave us a chance to go and actually sit on the hill and watch,
watch
some
something.
racing. Because when
You're
you're...
saying you're glad my car broke so you could watch them race? Is that what you're basically saying?
I'm not saying that I may have
You're
a
not saying that you're
circlip
saying
lying
it,
at
but you're
home.
actually saying it.
I'm not saying that a circlip has found its way into my pocket or anything like that, but it was nice to actually just sit and chill and talk and see some cars go up the hill, which unfortunately when you're competing, there's not a lot of opportunity to do that because the runs are kind of on top of each other the whole time, so you've got to be there the whole day. But that in it itself is also a really cool experience. I mean, if anyone's ever been to the pits in Knysna, it's a vibe. I mean, it's like a proper petrolhead party going on in there.
And also just the kind of folks that hang out there.
Yeah,
the
it's
guys
like a
that
big
you rub
family.
shoulders with.
Yeah.
And,
cool.
you know, what's really nice about being there, which I sort of particularly felt that on Classic Friday, was you're rubbing shoulders with captains of industry. I mean, these guys have life experience that we don't even dream about yet. These guys have got big ammo, they've got cool race cars, they proper racing drivers, but they don't look down on us for having the budget Supra barn find thing that we built in, well, that Niku mostly
that's
built.
smoking
And
up
it
the
didn't-
gaff.
And it didn't look out of place. I mean, it didn't look out of place
In
at
fact,
all.
It was a crowd favorite.
Yeah, it was a crowd favourite.
People were
And-
talking about the Supra and they were like, oh, because it's also something different. You don't
Yeah, yeah.
see them often.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of Nissan Skylines and stuff, but you don't see the old Supra.
Yeah, you always hear about these memes of like, you know, is that a Supra? Is that a Supra? But with one of the runs that I actually came down with the Supra, there was a little kid. But I mean, young, probably like 12 or 14.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, this kid knows the Fast and Furious Supra, obviously. So, you know, he was looking at the Porsche going like, rev up, rev up, rev up. No, and he just looked at us and he's, it's a Supra. It's a Supra. It's a Supra.
That's so cool.
So that was quite cool. But yeah, man, the Supra went well. It's a shame about the weather.
Yeah, so Friday's weather was not great.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It was very close to a tsunami, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit.
And a hurricane. No, it was a bit wet. It was soggy. It was like being in the UK. But every run was a wet run. There wasn't a dry run that I had.
You had a drier
Yeah,
run.
I had a dry year run where it didn't
But it wasn't
rain.
dry.
Yes. So I mean, the Supra went well. You and Neil put some heavy lifting in just beforehand when I was stressing about the steering wheel feel, where it essentially didn't feel like I've got any force feedback. It's still the best way of me explaining it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
it
numb.
felt like, it was
feel
completely
anything.
numb. And I learned that you have to bleed a steering rack. And after Neil going deaf with a Porsche cold starting next to his ear, all of us being almost gas chambered, like
Yeah, I must admit, Friday morning, when all the cars in the pits are sitting there idling to warm up because the classics have to warm up before they
And
go
these
up.
are old cars with carbs.
Yeah,
and
These are
big
old
engines
cars
and
with carbs. They're running super rich.
straight pipes and
And yeah, the fumes. My eyes were burning.
Yeah.
I was like seeing double at one stage. Neil, I think, was really suffering because he was literally under the Supra, crouching behind the Porsche that was in front of us, and the exhaust was
starting
literally blowing in his face.
Yes, like yeah. It wasn't amazing.
I actually have a bit of FOMO for missing a lot of the Friday.
So as bad as
We'll
the
get to
fumes-
your brilliant
Yeah.
preparation soon.
I missed this. I would love to.
as bad as the fumes and everything was, I love, we kind of take a piss about like carbs and rebuilding carbs and overfueling carbs and whatever, but the smell of the old cars and the sounds, it's just, yes, you are deaf afterwards, but it's what it feels like a proper Formula One event should still be. You have to be a bit deaf afterwards.
I've said
And
it
there's
once.
real Formula One cars that they started up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. Classic Friday at Simola is one of the best sounding motor racing events in the country.
In the
it
world,
sounds
man. It's freaking proper Formula
brilliant.
One cars.
Yeah.
I love Classic Friday.
And yeah, look, it really hit home. The first run didn't hit home because I drove over
You're just nervous for the first one, right?
Yeah, and
I mean, it's a car you've never driven before
yes,
on a road
and the
you've
guy
never driven before.
at the start line told me to reverse, and
He
he's
broke the
showing me
start.
reverse, and I'm reversing over the start shock. I'm getting yelled at. It's like, oh shit, what's going on?
So you let the guy with the budget car in and he breaks the start line.
I broke the broomstick essentially.
Yeah.
And but by the second run, it's really like one of those teary-eyed, pinch yourself moments. But I think one of the coolest things as well afterwards, the entire vibe in at Knysna, driving home in the Supra on the streets. I mean, I was sitting passenger, but driving. Well, I was sitting on the floor. Neil was driving it home, but sunset in the background.
In Mexico, obviously, because you wouldn't drive
No, it was legal.
to sit on the floor.
I had a toolbox, and the sound of the Supra's turbo whistling in the background, sunset going down over the Knysna hedge, driving back to Penzula.
That was pretty cool.
It was
Yeah.
surreal.
It was pretty freaking cool, and it was
Yeah.
like the end of the day, and it's like, okay, the Supra survived this. I built this. We built this. We made it here.
The
It was
Supra
freaking awesome.
The
Yeah.
Supra did more than survive it. It freaking
It
impressed.
thrived, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there were guys with millions of rands budgets there, and their cars broke. They only did one or two runs.
And that
You
car
did all of
didn't,
it.
6 months ago, right, before the event, that car was not running.
It was a shell.
There were
essentially.
a
parts in the
shell,
boot.
like,
I mean,
yeah.
it was.
It was, I mean, I think it's a crazy story from, I mean, where it's come from.
No, I think-
Nico, like,
I think-
Nico getting it running is, I mean, it's insane. I think that's...
Big props to Nico for building it.
No, dude, the time you put into that.
The way
thing
that
is-
it turned out with the livery, I think it looked spectacular.
amazing.
Oh, that's a winner.
I think in terms of what it does for us as a channel, it was brilliant because it really did draw a lot of attention. It grew, drew crowds and
Yeah.
people were very intrigued by the story of this Bonfine Supra and blah, blah, blah. So I think it was a really, really cool idea to take
Definitely.
that car.
What I
there.
also like about it is that, it's almost like the Lemon story where, I mean, a lot of the commentators, we know some of the guys that said, the car was originally built for Lemons, right?
Yeah.
That was the point. And the car's still built on a Lemons budget to qualify for
definitely.
Lemons, for OG Lemons. But one of our kind of missions is we want to get more people into motorsport, and we want to show people that you don't need to buy the 2 million rand Ferrari to go and race in Classic Friday, or the 1.5 million rand Porsche.
Yeah.
You can do it with a less than 100,000 rand Toyota or a Nissan Skyline or whatever it is.
And go race against million rand Porsches
Exactly.
and Ferraris.
And
with
Enzo
Enzo Kuhn at the wheel and
Yeah, Louis Campos.
be part of it, but I mean, it's almost just go and race something. Just do if you want to do it, make it happen.
yeah. So
just to mention for our listeners as well, the build series for the Supra is on the YouTube channel, so you guys can go and see all the work that went into it. A lot of it, unfortunately, wasn't
is a bit
filmed
spotty, yes.
because
Yeah.
we were on a deadline once we had realized that we are going to Knysna. So obviously, Niku had to spanner on it, and he can't always
Yeah.
spanner and film.
And the issue with building a race car, not paying someone, it kind of becomes a bit less glamorous. I mean, I love it because I
a lot
love
of work,
doing it.
yeah.
But it's a lot of work,
Yes,
and a lot of
hours.
late nights after actual work,
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of difficult to weld a roll cage and not have someone film it, right? It starts getting difficult.
And
my mate helped me a few times, but I mean,
the thing is,
lost in the sauce.
I saw this when I did that stupid repair on my Jag's turbo. If you are filming yourself doing a job, the job takes 3 times longer than what it normally would. And we simply didn't have the time. I mean, Niku had to get the car done.
But there's lots of good content there.
But there's lots of good content, and you get to see a little bit behind the scenes of how the Supra came to be. The other thing I want to mention is that we are uploading a sort of write-up of our Knysna experience on the website, which is now live. You guys can go check us out on inductionnoise.co.za. There is a blog section, and I'm doing a 3-part series on everything that's happened in Knysna. So you can go and read that, some cool pictures there, and more detail about what actually happened over the course of the weekend. Now, Andre, I mentioned earlier that you're known for, shall we say, preparing everything well in advance. So how long before going to Knysna did you have the clutch redone on your 4C?
You mean when did I start the process to...
No.
Do you want to go into that much detail? Because I don't even know. I would like to know.
When did you pick up the car?
Well, when my car was ready with the working clutch.
Yes.
So we left on the Wednesday, right?
Yes.
The Wednesday morning. It was the Tuesday evening at 6:30.
So the day before we left, the evening, you made the guys work late.
I didn't make them work late. It's their own
But you
fault
did.
they work late. But that's when I picked up my car, yes.
And then once we arrived in Knysna, your car was ready and it was good to go, right?
Kind of.
Elaborate?
So I wanted to change the tires. So I had these very race, like Cup 2 tires on there. And it was very cold. So I'm like, actually, I want to go for road tires and, take it a bit more easy.
And give the competition some,
Exactly.
You don't want to
just
get
hold
there
back a bit. We don't want to overpower everything,
Nice.
It's not about us.
So you decided to spend Classic Friday changing your tires rather than supporting your friend.
Basically, because it takes like 3 hours to lift up a corner in my car in the average auto shop because...
And the power went off.
Yes.
And then the
Car was stuck.
municipality of Knysna decided to cut the power and my car was stuck on the wheel alignment lift for an hour.
I mean, Knysna, unfortunately, Knysna municipality, not one of the best performing
But
municipalities.
also, I remember something else. When the morning we saw the car, and the afternoon, it kind of looked...
It looked a bit different, yeah.
It looked a bit different.
It did look a bit different.
I also fashioned myself a, sticker applicator.
There you go.
So I did my whole livery vibe there. Actually, I had stickers
Insert
printed.
picture here.
And then stuck them on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe a few last minute things to
But then I was ready.
But then you were ready. So how did Saturday go for you?
Yes.
Yes. Saturday was a
It
very
went.
long day. There was a lot of driving.
It was 24 hours.
There's a lot of driving.
Most days are.
There was not a lot of driving on the hill, but there was a lot of driving. I joined the Ref Your Jeep status because it started with my first run. I was very nervous. I'll be very honest. I was super nervous to go up there my first time. I haven't been that nervous about any motorsport event or anything that I've done to go up that hill for the first time because just don't bin your car the first time you go up. Just don't bin it. Just get a feel for it. And after I went up the first time, tentative, felt it out, and then my times were actually kind of in the mix there. And I'm like, okay. And then I was into it. Then I was great. And then the very next run, I was racing up the hill, and then suddenly something was weird. There was a whole lot of, looked like it was Christmas with a whole lot of lights going on. Couldn't shift, stuck in fourth gear.
Smoking like the Supra.
Smoking, and then I was stuck on top of the hill.
From Neil and my perspective, we were standing sort of between the start line and turn 2. And we saw you go past, and as you started going up the hill, we heard you bouncing off the limiter and smoke coming out of the back of the car.
Yeah, it's
So
normally not a good sign.
immediately, the two of us, I was thinking, oh, either the engine's gone, but if it's bouncing off the limiter, maybe you just burnt the brand new clutch to crisps. But luckily, it wasn't terminal.
Yeah.
It was a 50-cent circlip.
It was it's what should be a 50-cent circuit, but probably cost $500 because it's a freaking part number, whatever. But
Because some Jag driver allegedly stole it.
exactly, because sometimes your friends sabotage your racing so they can watch it. You know?
Allegedly.
Yes.
But what it did mean is, fortunately, we had Alpha there. We had Stellantis. Johannes from Stellantis was racing the Stelvio up there as well. Unfortunately, with that, he brought all his, all the fancy mechanics and all the guys from.
Yeah, big
from
shout out
Stellantis.
to Keith, the master mechanic.
Keith, the mechanic, and Johannes for organizing. So it turns out we were able to track down. Fortunately, Keith looked at it, and it took him about 3 minutes to diagnose what was going on. You know exactly what we needed. We just didn't have it because it was 12 o'clock on a Saturday
So
afternoon.
what had happened? You haven't actually said what had happened.
So a little circlip, pulled off, and a hydraulic line came out with clutch fluid spewing everywhere. The back window, everything was just oil dripping under the car. It was just, clutch fluid.
Hydraulic fluid.
Hydraulic fluid, yeah. It wasn't that much. It was just like a little 500 mils of it, but it looks like a lot. But also without that, you can't do anything. The car's stuck in fourth gear. You can't start the car because it's in gear. You can't push the car or move it or tow it because it's in gear. So they may want to think about that scenario.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned on the day as well, like for this Aston Martin that you probably can't see because the camera is kind of mounted on it.
It's a good camera mount.
Yeah, there's an Aston Martin DB9 here, and we've had scenarios before where we need to push the car and for some reason the battery was dead or whatever, and it was in park. Now, with these, with the Ferraris, with some of the other cars, I know that some of them have it. Alpha obviously doesn't. But with this, you pull the passenger side back seat, the seat base up.
I see, I don't have a back seat.
And then there's a little screw that you undo, and there's a big aluminium lever that you just pull upwards, and the gearbox goes into neutral. That would be a useful feature.
Yeah, but I don't have a back seat, so I can't have that.
Fair enough.
And it adds weight.
Exactly.
So
But it was remedied.
it was remedied. So we found these parts in
George.
the guys phoned around in George, which is not very far.
It is 70 k's away.
But 70 k's is not far, but on that road,
Yeah, it's
where
on a
there's
great road.
roadworks and there's like trucks and all sorts of stuff. So I got given the keys to a Jeep Wrangler Sport. That's still a homologation model, I think. But with the Alpha-based engine in it, the 2-liter turbo from the Giulia. And that was quite an interesting drive. I drove as quickly as I could while the other guys were racing. I was driving within limits, within the legal speed limits, as quickly as I could.
Well, there's a nice shortcut if you go from
the farm
Knysna to
in
George
Mexico.
via Mexico.
Yes, okay.
Then
Yeah,
there's,
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
a little
that little bit,
de-restricted
I drove
motorway
a
that
bit
you
harder
can.
during that little bit, but I was expecting the thing to fall over because it's a Jeep, it's a Wrangler. I was really expecting the thing to add 120 to start, looking for escape routes. And first of all, the thing pulls like a freaking train with a smooth 8-speed auto box, and then it's stable, like 160, 170 through those Mexican sweeps.
Yeah.
Stable. I was very surprised. It is a 1.3 million rand car, so it is an expensive thing.
Unfortunately,
But
the
it's-
issue with modern cars.
Yeah. But I was impressed that its road manners were quite decent.
Yeah.
Anyway, got the spares, came back, had it fitted. Was hoping to get the last run in for the Saturday.
You just
but
missed it,
just
basically.
missed it.
Yeah.
So
And then you went on to do the most alpha thing anyone could ever say.
yes,
You broke on a Saturday and you won on a Sunday.
Yeah.
thanks guys.
There you go.
Couldn't have done it without you guys. Couldn't have done it without you guys.
And you had limited running. I mean, there was only you had no runs. So how many runs did you have on
So
the
I had
Sunday?
6 runs in total. So I had, if I'm not mistaken,
You had one practice run.
5 runs actually. If you, So I didn't have many runs. And that's the one part I'm frustrated about is I know there's more time in it. I know I could go a bit faster. I know the car could do a bit more. But you need that confidence. You have to build it up. I mean, you've also done it. You're building it up every time. It's not something you can rush. You can't jump.
I also think that I think it was the run that you did in the final was your fastest one, right?
Yeah.
So you get through to the class final, and
But it wasn't a very good run.
the first half of it was terrible.
Yeah, first half was worse.
And Neil and I were watching again, and we saw you going around, and I thought he braked too soon.
It was too slow.
You braked way too early to go into that corner, and you went up too slow. And then we saw the speed trap time come up, and it's like 160 something, where you had been doing over 170 on all your previous runs. And I thought, oh no,
It's going to be a slow run.
Bugged it up. And then for the second half of the run, I don't know if you were just frustrated with your performance of the first half and just thought, well, fuck it, I'm just going to just send it.
I was just sending it, bro. I was basically flat.
The next minute, you unleashed fury on that poor car of yours, and it just flew through those S's. I mean, the replay of you going through the S's is pretty damn awesome to watch.
I mean, we knew at that stage, you knew you would kind of like hopefully get a podium because, I mean, as you didn't mention it, but you got bumped up, right? Before, and also you got bumped from class A1 to
so
B10.
class A1 for standard turbo two-wheel drive cars, and then I got kicked up to the
B10, basically the modified production
road car class, which means anything goes, which means there's a 400 plus kilowatt Nissan GTR 34, there's a R33, and there was also a 1,000, briefly, there was a 1,000 horsepower Audi RS3.
Which won last year.
Yeah,
which won last year,
which is a very quick car,
Yeah.
but they managed to break it during the parade lap, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it never even made it to the hill.
So I mean, there was a lot of, because the guys' cars are tuned and everything, they weren't running the way they should, whatever. But, end of the day, it's a race day. We work with what you have. I also didn't have
finish
running time.
first you have to finish.
And what I was surprised about is, in spite of the little running, it wasn't that far off. I mean, the fastest time of the weekend that Farouk Dangoor did in the GTR, the R34, and they said they detuned the car to only 400 kilowatts.
Only 400.
They did a 48.4 and I did a 49.3. So I'm 0.9 seconds off his fastest lap of the week was my final run. But obviously I'm better in the final. So I was surprised.
His car basically went into limp mode on the final run.
Car gave up in the final. But I was wanting to see, because some guys were going slower, so I was actually curious to see how close it would have been in the final.
Would have been close.
When his cars work,
you were in with the shot, so I mean,
To be fair, I think both your car and Niku's car were technically in the wrong class.
No, we were definitely the underdogs. I mean, we were way underpowered.
You were way underpowered for the cars that you were competing against. But it just, because of the particular rules of what each class constitutes.
And which is
in
fair.
your case, you've literally changed a couple of hoses on your car that are not stock.
Well, and then subsequently I also,
Tuned it up a bit.
tuned the thing and run octane booster and all sorts of stuff. One of the things they're very serious about is fuel. Fuel is a huge thing in the road cars. So this year they
Especially
sealed
this
cars.
year. This year
This year they sealed cars. So they have
Some
like an MSA
cars.
sticker. They seal it. You can't change the fuel, anything. So fuel is a big thing for the standard cars. So fortunately, it didn't have that problem. So I gave it all the maximum mix of octane booster that you can have.
just below F-gas, basically.
No, it's way more than F-gas. It's way more than F-gas. No.
He was
F-gas,
basically running on acetylene.
You're basically like, snorting everything you can snort
dude,
up.
it is like if you take F-gas and you put in a normal amount of octane booster. That's how much
But you guys did, both of you drove exceptionally well. I think it was definitely like a different experience from like I think it was, I must say, like when we got home, I mean, we didn't even touch on, of course, we had some overheating issues getting there, right? But we got there.
Trip.
But I was tired, but in a good way. It was really like,
No, it was an exhausting weekend.
Yeah.
The thing is with anything like this is unfortunately, even though everyone's mates, is sometimes someone gets frustrated with something and it's just the tiredness, but afterwards it's like, that was so cool.
Yeah,
You know,
looking
it's-
back, it was definitely,
It's,
it was
it's
awesome.
like Hamilton swearing at his pit crew or Max or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
just
like
the
at the
moment.
end of the day, it's like the heat of the moment. But
We're all mates,
it's
we're doing the same
so
thing.
freaking awesome, and I can't wait to do it next year again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of like the lemons. The lemons is something like up
You have
as
to
long
do it.
as
it's something in the calendar that's
Yes.
there every year.
And the thing is, what was for me striking is the guys with the Porsche. I mean, what's funny for me is I asked the guys, because I never seen them. I mean, we all go to Killarney quite often.
I think
mean,
his name is Wesley or something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, they only do Simola.
Yeah.
They live
their
in
motorsport
that's the
event.
motorsport event. And they asked us, okay, who's your sponsors? And of course, we thankfully had Steve's company, Sujin, on it,
Sujin,
Code
we had
Pure.
Code Pure.
But I mean, we have Induction Noise. And I think it was one of the guys said to me on Classic Car Friday, it's really nice to see a bunch of younger guys here. And I think it's kind of like, what we said with motorsport is we want to give back by competing, by being there.
Yeah.
Even if we're not driving, for me, it was awesome just being there, helping out where you can. If it means like carrying some stuff around or, checking fluid or helping pack or unpack or whatever.
But that really
That's
helps.
what it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
it
know,
really
it's-
helps. Like somebody to check the tire pressures, do something. It helps a heck of a lot. If you're alone,
Yeah.
If you do, I've been on race meetings and stuff where you're alone, and it's actually not nice because you're always running around. You've all these things to remember and nobody to give you a hand.
I know I mentioned earlier as well, but the camaraderie and the sort of overall friendliness of everyone in the pits.
Yes,
and,
it's a very unique.
and everyone's
experience.
everyone sort of on the same level. It's not us and them kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Guys are very open and they're very welcoming.
just
and
the fact that we're there means that we're one of them.
Yeah.
It's pretty serious though, I must say. Like, even on the Saturday morning,
Yeah.
like it was definitely, you can feel like everyone is chilled, but
Yes.
I felt like even Classic Car Friday, if you did like, I mean, Nico was competing against 3 of the top 10 fastest cars was in his class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rick Campos, for instance, ran that Porsche in the wet. Like,
Yeah.
in the wet, he was the
that is-
fastest.
that
He was
was
faster.
overall
He was
fastest
faster
car.
than
I mean,
everyone in the wet.
And it's cool that you can sit and, even when we had problems when we had with the battery, he was
He
there.
jumped in and
He
helped,
jumped in,
which is
helped
awesome.
out, and it's really, really nice. It's nice to, it's memories we're building as well.
And
right?
again, I mean, Rui Campos is a legend in racing, and I'd never met him before
very nice
Classic
guy.
Friday. What a hell of a nice guy. I mean, he was just, we were joking and talking all day, and
I was also on
they
the-
just love
Enzo
racing.
as well.
Yeah.
when I was,
there
when
with
I
his
was on the
Ferrari.
hill, when I was stuck up on the hill there with the car, and there were some other guys who also had some issues with some of those faster cars. So Van Zimmeren and Goodsight and those guys, they also with these big Skylines, R33s with all these wings and stuff. And so we both there, so had a good chat. Yo, what's wrong with you, car? Yo, what's up and whatever. Good luck. Well, these guys, it's just a very welcoming setup.
Yeah, no,
Nobody's like,
it's-
oh, what are you doing here? You're like,
Yeah.
I'm important.
No, it's a really, really cool experience. And if you haven't been to Knysna, we keep saying it, but you genuinely have to go. It's a very, very cool.
Yeah, and if you get the
event.
chance to compete, I mean, I know I hopped on about it beforehand. I mean, last year you guys could go up the hill, like experience it, but I think we spoke about it afterwards. Like I said to you guys, it's different. If you look back at it, it's awesome to do racing. I mean, I've not done Lemons. It's an awesome event, but there's something I think where, for me, Simola is the closest you'll get to have a proper international level compete at a proper, unless you're big budget, you can afford to go race the 9 hours of Kalami in South Africa. That's the closest you'll get to rub shoulders with guys, spending that amount of money on race cars and compete essentially like for like against
But
them.
something
Speaking
else.
of guys who are on that level, Christofferson in that polo.
Oh geez, yeah.
Holy smoke!
I mean,
Yeah.
you get somebody
That
who can
is
drive,
a-
and then you get world class. Then you get
That
Oh, it's
guy.
one of the
insane.
best drivers in the
Oh, it
world.
was insane.
The car control is just.
Yeah, but I mean,
absolutely mental.
Peter Zili for me was definitely, we spoke a little bit about.
But the whole package, just I mean, Peter's driving obviously was good, but also the car, the way the car's developed,
Yeah,
I mean, that thing is
it's
on
insane.
rails. I've never seen a car handle with that much composure.
I was
It's a
gonna say
Scalectic
that.
roll.
It's crazy.
You
It's like a
saw
Scalectic
that
roll.
car going through the S's, and it doesn't move.
It's on rails.
It just hauls ass at unbelievable speed.
The balance and the handling is just amazing.
And then there was one of his runs. He seemed to have a mechanical problem, and the car wasn't running properly, and it was sort of coughing and spluttering up the hill. And apparently, they're still not quite
They're
sure,
not sure what caused it.
it.
But it was
because
cool the second
The
time.
next time he went up, it was fine.
No, it's amazing.
And also, I felt bad for one of our other favorites, Reggie, because I almost thought that this was going to be his year. When I saw that he was consistently outperforming the Sheriff, I thought to myself, yes, Reggie's going to get it
But
this
what's
year.
been happening in the
And
past
then
few years is
that
the
MR2 came out.
But the thing is, the sheriff and Reggie's the Nissan
That
GTRs
platform.
they're trying to keep up.
Yeah,
they're
not-
trying to keep up
they're
with
not
the
the
two-wheel
quickest
drive
cars anymore.
Yeah, Nico was saying, I think as well, like, what sort of chassis would you use? And if I was Scribanti going back, I would say, like, listen, he's got that monster Porsche of his. I would consider, like, thinking, I can take a lot more weight out of it. The rear-wheel drive cars are now, I mean, even the first sector. It's the first year this time we also got sector times.
Yes.
And for me, what was crazy is that the two-wheel drive cars were even faster than the four-wheel drive cars, even in the first sector.
And the second
So-
sector is no comparison.
Yeah,
But I
so
also
it's...
think that a lot of the four-wheel drive cars were kind of holding back a little bit off the line, because I think they saw last year when you're putting 1,000
Breaking
plus
their clutches.
horsepower through a four-wheel drive system, you're going to break the transmission, which is what happened to quite a few guys.
That MR2 apparently is basically a 1-1. It's got 1,000 horsepower and it
Yes.
weighs 1,000 kilos.
Yes.
yeah.
So it,
But that's cool because it's not overpowered, right? It's because if you look at
in Hillclimb talk, it's not overpowered.
In Hillclimb talk, And I mean, it was evident in the speed it was doing through the speed trap. It was trapping 20 to 30 kilometers an hour slower than all of the GTRs.
Yeah, that's crazy actually.
But it's also...
That's crazy. I mean, they all just-
Reggie's got the biggest balls going up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
I
like
mean,
250 doing up.
Him and Clint West.
Reggie is essentially the South African like Chuck Norris.
There we go, Reggie.
And
That's
Clint
definite.
is just he's
Clint is also a machine.
forget
For a road
about
car.
forget about like
I don't think Clint's brain registers fear.
No.
It's like it doesn't exist.
No.
He just... I like to sort of imagine him giggling all the way up, because it looks like he's having so much fun.
I imagine him being the modern James Hunt of the world. He's just having a laugh. And
Meantime, he's a very chill family man.
he's a very chill family man. But I mean, his driving style is
he's a
is
maniac.
very
Yeah,
aggressive.
So the thing is, I mean,
Very impressive.
because I think they did it this year again, last year. So what do you do if you've got a 700 horsepower car with like 1,500 Newton meters of torque? What do? You switch off all the driver aids and you drive it
Like you stole
as
it.
is,
Yeah.
without any electronics interfering. I mean, that's just mental.
there was some definitely. I felt like from the road car category, I mean BMW had added. I mean Clint and Natalie was really good. They I can't remember unfortunately their colleague's name. He was really fast. And then the BMW guys, Leighton
Young
Ferree.
guy? Yes.
Leighton was there,
Leighton is a
and
Jeez, that was
the guy
impressive.
driving the M4. What's his name?
Verlini.
Verlini. Jeez, the guys were like.
He's Christian is also a advanced driving instructor, I believe, with BMW.
Yes.
He was him and Clint was,
he was
but I
close to
think
that,
there was like driving instructor beef there.
Yeah,
But then in the stands,
Yeah.
where Quint and I
Rivalry.
where we were waiting for Andre to come up the last time, there was beef in turn 2 from BMW versus Mercedes. There was definitely like some vibes going on
the
there.
crowd was like...
Nice.
Which is cool. It's like
Yeah,
it felt
that's
like
cool,
that's the good camaraderie. There was like, and then the BMW guys were.
Get you next time. That's
Yeah,
very
well,
cool. That's very cool.
But also worth mentioning that the turnout at Knysna is always really good, which says a lot about the event and the way that it's organized and
But
everything.
it's a vibe, and it's one event
vibe.
where,
It's
where
really,
people
really
like
cool.
going to, even people who aren't that into cars,
Yeah.
because there's a whole, there's things to do, there's things to see.
and if you go out in the evenings, all of the restaurants are filled with guys who are racing drivers and racing
Yeah, yeah.
teams and whatever. And
they're open to
everyone's-
chat and everything.
Everyone's open to chat, and everyone's tuning each other crap, and it's a really, really cool vibe.
One of my favorite moments of the weekend was after it was on the Sunday, right? The Saturday after the racing. Just got my car fixed, so we're ready for the next day. And we park off at the local Spar, the pizza place there.
Yeah.
And there's this kid walks up to me and like, hey, I like your car. That's my favorite car there. Good luck for tomorrow. Give him a, sign something that he has there. It's just like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, what the world am I living in?
What the
It's
heck's
like-
going on?
Shout out to Pizza Perfect as well.
Yeah.
Giving us 10% discount for being Knysna Hillclimb supporters and for exposure. So
Exactly.
good pizza also.
Nice.
Very nice. But yeah, guys, it's been fun catching up. Knysna was a blast.
So look,
I think we should definitely consider doing that again.
So obviously Knysna, the weekend, so we're talking about some highlights in terms of our driving and in terms of things in general that we experienced for the weekend. But obviously there was some tragedy at Knysna as well. So yeah, I mean, that's motorsport is dangerous and all those things. And, we obviously just want to, our thoughts still go with the U-Bears. I mean, the event itself is I think is still amazing. And even they said, the event should go on and people should compete in the event. It was a bit difficult for some of us, for some guys, and there's obviously, it puts a bit of a dampener on things, it's such a tragic event. But
I think it was a good way to honor Peter.
Absolutely. I mean,
Celebration. It was a celebration.
Absolutely.
A celebration of his life. It was a celebration of life.
It was
of what we love.
It was so absolutely.
And even at the prize giving, the fact that they said, don't spray champagne, this is out of respect for the family
100%.
and everything. It was a celebration of being a racing driver,
Yes. And I think we can all, we can all relate to that, where I would want the same thing. If something happens at a race day or somewhere and the show can go on, please let the show go on, Like, I live for this stuff. I love doing it, So,
kudos for the family to make that decision.
So anyway, just wanted to mention that.
So, on that note, guys, I think let's end it there. We will be back next week, and we have some exciting news to share. So make sure you don't miss next week's episode. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe.
Smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button. Go check out our website, because I don't think people have realized that we have a website yet. Inductionnoise.co.za. Website built by Code Pure, by the way. So thanks Niku and his team for that. If you need a website or IT services, obviously phone them. They seem to know what they're doing. And
The website is working fine.
we will catch you guys in the next one.
Stay classy.
Stay classy, San Diego.
I forgot that bit. Yeah, I forgot that we do that.
That's the bit.